Mr. Sanderson, do you hate democracy? Hey guys, it's Jim Wilborn, author of the Continuer Chronicles. Just a warning, this is a critical analysis video and has spoilers for the second Mistborn novel, The Well of Ascension. So if you haven't read the novel and you don't want it spoiled for you, add this video to your watch later list and circle back around when you're done. But if you've read the novel and you want to chat about it on a deeper level, you're in the right place. Era 1 of Mistborn is a trilogy with The Well of Ascension as its second installment. In the final Empire, we're introduced to the world of Scandriel, its allomantic magic system, and its oppressive empire. After Vin and Kelsier's crew topple the Lord Ruler's hold over the people, Ellen Venture fills the power vacuum. But instead of following the tradition of the status quo, Ellen takes a different approach to leadership. He establishes a council, a representative democracy, to share governing authority. The assembly consists of 8 nobles, 8 ska workers, and 8 merchants. This is where, in my opinion, the story gets truly interesting, because Sanderson took the opportunity to lean into political intrigue in this novel, instead of it simply being an action-adventure tale. And yes, I can already see some of you in the back falling asleep. This isn't what you started this series hoping for. I get it. Not everyone likes a story with these types of plot lines. But bear with me for a moment. Perhaps I can make it a bit more fun for you. Instead of simply making this novel about political maneuvering, and don't get me wrong, there's a lot of that in here, the author develops an interesting question. Does democracy work? Like, really work? At risk of stepping out of my lane for a moment, you may have noticed that sometimes a democratic system doesn't produce the results we hope for. It sometimes feels like no one is happy and nothing of true substance is addressed because a healthy compromise can't be reached. Lines are drawn in the sand, a stalemate is reached, or worse. But let's examine what happens in the Well of Ascension when this experiment is attempted. Ellen Venture is the king of Luthadel, but has a democratic council of nobles. He wants to resolve matters with diplomatic solutions, and believes total control is part of the corruption he's trying to fix in their world. So he has placed limits on his own power. From the start, the novel pits democracy against authoritarianism. Vin functions as a dissenting voice. She tells Ellen that he shouldn't have to ask for permission. Meanwhile, Twindo attempts to help Ellen present himself more as a leader and fit the expectations of a king. She also pushes him to take a more authoritarian approach. It's fun to see this argument play out in the novel. On one hand, Ellen wants a more just society for all. On the other hand, there are those who believe that if you want something done right, you have to do it yourself. You can't rely on the good nature of those in power to share the spoils of success. Who's right? Throughout the story, Ellen tries to reason with his father, Staff Venture, when he brings an army to Luthadel to take control away from Ellen. Ellen tries to help ease food shortages while the armies outside Luthadel limit resources, but the merchant class refuses, forcing Ellen to distribute his own resources, though they fall short, to the ska. And while Ellen is trying to convince his father to team up with him against Set, a noble who wants to take the throne for himself, the assembly has a vote of no confidence for Ellen because he has refused to be the strong leader of the previous status quo. When Set is nominated to the throne after bribing the merchants to support him, he courts Ellen to gain his support. In that meeting, Set tells Ellen that he won't allow the assembly to continue after he takes rule, because that's the very reason why Ellen lost the throne in the first place. Ellen has put everything on the line. He deeply believes that democracy is better for his world after the rampant oppression of the Lord Ruler, and by giving more power to the people, he believed his version of governance would be self-evident to all. He even allows himself to be deposed when now is the time, more than ever, to take full control of his society so that it doesn't make slaves of its people. But it's not over yet. With one final vote to go to decide who will take the throne, there is still time for democracy to work, and Ellen holds on to that. When a vote for the new king is split between Penrod, Ellen, and Set, the 2 councilmen who voted for Set ask if they can change their vote. Ellen says that they can, hoping that they've seen the error in reverting back to authoritarianism. They change their vote to Penrod. losing Ellen the throne for good. As Ellen prepares to leave the city for his and Vin's safety, Twindle tells him that he shouldn't abandon his people, and that if he does, he'll be remembered as a coward. But he leaves anyway, feeling completely defeated. Not exactly a ringing endorsement for democracy. It's not until Vin returns to Luthadel and forces Penrod and Set to bend the knee to Ellen that this whole thing ends with Ellen as emperor. Ellen's experiment with democracy is a failure, and it ends with the restoration of the status quo, of Ellen having unchecked power. The story ultimately concludes with a good man in charge, but with a system that may, according to Ellen, lead to ruin in the future. So what does the author want us to take away from this? Is this an argument for the folly of a democratic society? Perhaps. But I think instead it's an exploration of the difficulty of being a good man while also being an effective leader. And Twindle says as much after Ellen loses the throne. But, Twindle said, that moment isn't what cost you the throne, Ellen Venture. That moment was a small thing, far too simple to credit with your large-scale failure. You lost the throne because you wouldn't command your armies to secure the city, because you insisted on giving the assembly too much freedom, and because you don't employ assassins and other forms of pressure. In short, Ellen Venture, you lost the throne because you are a good man. When a progressive change in the status quo is attempted, certain members of society face a crisis. It's like changing the rules of an established game when there are winners and losers. The winners are unlikely to change the rules because it's a system in which they're secure and invested. The losers are often more likely to want to change the rules, but even they may not want to change the rules, even when the change is ultimately in their favor. We saw this play out in the Well of Ascension when Ellen loses his throne. While most Ska sided with Ellen, the nobles and merchants sided with the two contenders who wouldn't tip the balance of power. And when Ellen asks Twindle how great men have handled the situation in the past, Twindle tells Ellen that they wouldn't have found themselves in this situation because they wouldn't have lost their titles in the first place. Giving up power is rather rare in our world as well as the fictional worlds we visit. George Washington, Juan Carlos I, and to an extent Gorbachev are some notable examples. But truly good leaders are rare, and those who find themselves in power are often too good to be effective. In the novel, it's not until Vin takes matters into her own hands that Ellen can lead, something Ellen was unwilling to do. But what do you think? What do you think the Well of Ascension has to say about democracy and corruption? Do you think it's possible for a man to do what is right and also be a good king? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to know what you think and discuss it further with you. If you'd like to support this channel outside of liking, subscribing, and hitting the notification bell, you can buy my book. If you enjoy Brandon Sanderson's books, there's a good chance you'll enjoy mine as well. You can find the link in the description. And until next time, err on the side of awesome.